First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashun Yahushua, Bashun Kakodash. Second, I want to give double honor to the apostle, the Jim Master Wolfwell, and a peace, blessing, salutations to the whole for elect. This is Shakaka Ralph from GMS, Virginia, and the Lord's will you be edified. This is pretty much another lesson about not trusting an enemy. But our enemy today is a so-called white man, and system that's been built up from the backs of our people, and which this your hard labor, your toils, blood, sweat, and tears have been used against our people to trap you and enslave you and to keep you into oppression and to keep you very low. So the more you love this system, the more you love, your enemy. The more you pretty much contribute to this kingdom, this infrastructure. So let me get this real quick. I'm getting it up. See Romans. I'm gonna hold this on deck. So start at verse 25. So Chat GPT, why you should not your enemy. Friendly and understand since the 60s, and ever since we've been integrated with the so-called white man, he's been acting so ever as if he's our friend and our buddies. Their goal is usually still to beat you, control you, or benefit from you. And like the scripture says, the gift destroys the heart. Those snares and those traps and the wiles of the devil. And we understand the so-called white man is the devil. This infrastructure, this system is very satanic. But again, our people still are blinded. Main reason you shouldn't trust an enemy, they will use your honesty against you. And one thing, about Jake, they're honest somewhat. Jake is pretty much always going to eventually, because one thing for sure, we still have a conscience. So eventually, things that happen in the dark things and bad things, wickedness and evil things, eventually is going to come out of us. But again, they say anything you reveal can become a weapon later. So, everything that we're starting to see that our people did for these Edomites, fought their wars, built this infrastructure, built their infrastructure, built this queendom of his, has been pretty much tossed back in our face. Their kindness can be strategy. Enemies can often fake peace to lower your guard. And again, that's what Esau has done. And ultimately, what Esau does is gives our people pleasure. Let me see. Esau built a system, and we feed that system. And that system that he gave us, and eventually gave to us, was being criminals. First, we built up this infrastructure by slavery, and then eventually turned over to us becoming criminals. And what Esau does is feeds us with criminality. So trust gives them access. So let me see that. Let me get this real quick. Romans 1. And this is ultimately what happened to us when our people pretty much stopped worshiping Yahweh Bashim Shah, and we fell more so for the system instead of to our true power. And this is why ultimately our people are becoming worse day by day, is because they worship the so-called white men in this system. So let me see. I'm at Romans 1:23. And instead of worshiping the glorious ever-living power This is in the NLT. They worship idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. So Yahweh Shah abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desired. And Esau knows, our people are Israelites, and they have, somewhat of a king mindset, etc. They like good things, and again with Jake. But one thing Jake does is want to chase the bag, chase riches, chase honor, chase respect, chase wealth. But it all comes with a price. And no Jake wants to be left behind. All Jake really want that stardom, that limelight, but that high position. Because yeah, we're Israelites, but you got to understand who terrain you're on. So it says, as a result, they did vile and degrading things with each other's bodies. And see, since our people want the bag, the briefcase, what does Esau do? He lays a snare. He brings you along the journey, the ride. You come to the room, and then your behind becomes his. If you know what I'm saying, you set the sacrifice of your children, and it's a lot more. So a sacrifice is required. So they traded the truth about Yahweh Bashem Shah for a lie, and Esau lies to our people. So they worship and serve the things Yahweh Bashem Shah created instead of the Creator Himself. So Jake is very known for worshiping material and not worshiping the Creator. Like the scripture said, we came in poor, came in with nothing, we died with nothing. Pretty much one thing we die with is our integrity. So it says, who is worthy of eternal praise? Aman. That is why Yahweh Shah abandoned them to their shameful desires. So it says, even the women turned against the natural way to have sex and instead indulge in sex with each other. And you got that book, Shahrazad Ali, A Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. You can go to ChatGPT. I actually had it up. I just did a little brief reading of it, the summary of it. And, pretty much talks about how the so-called black woman, and, that's, we start off with her, but it's all the women of our nation, the so-called Latinos, Hispanic, Native American women, West Indian women, because they all have fallen. And it's crazy because a lot of these women have fell for that bait, that gift. And now a lot of our women are either on drugs, they're homosexuals, they're lesbians, and they're just bugged out. They're turned out, man. And they hate men. And the men, instead of having normal sex relationships with women, burn with the lust for each other. And that's what going on too. Since the men don't want to be leaders and want to step into their role as being men and being watchmen and alert men for the nation of Israel, hey, what do? You want to please your flesh. If you don't please Yahweh Shah, you're going to want to please your flesh. And Esau got something for you. So it says, instead of having normal sexual relations with women, burnt with lust for each other. Yeah, because you got to understand, it's not even about having children anymore or family. It's all about just what, wow, what you say, nasty, wild, sex. Which really, I mean, yeah, how you say it, sex is good, but you're supposed to keep it sacred, and you're supposed to pretty much bring forth children. But now it's all about getting what is that? Getting your scratch off. So it says, men did shameful things with other men, and as a result of this sin, they suffered within themselves the penalty they deserved. So this is why ultimately Jake is HIV and etc. is on a high rise. So 28, since they thought it was foolish to acknowledge Yahweh Shah, he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never be done. And also, when I read this account about never trusting an enemy, one thing Esau did was put our people against each other and tricked our people. So you have scriptures that talks about I'm gonna bring it forth, but it talks about turning the other cheek, and it also talks about as the scripture says, Let me see if I can find it. Um, let me see. Hold on. Bear with me real quick. Let me see. Hold on real quick. All right, let me see. So it says, teaching about revenge. Ultimately, is this ultimately goes towards our people who are Israelites, because you gotta understand who this message were given to. Just like when Moses gave those law, statute, commandments to Israelites during that time. I believe this was Yahweh Shah speaking. He gave charge and words to the people of Israel who were Israelites. So you got to understand, this was never intended for you to love your master and kiss a soca white man's ass, because I find it you find it very ironic that you have Jake that they forgive the soca white man for everything, but here it is, our people carry grudges since the fucking 70s and the 60s. And here it is, you're old people now, and you still holding that grudge. Aging, looking bad, with that dumb look on your face. But here it is, the so-called white man have done all types of wrongdoings to you, but you love that man. You forgive and you forget, you honor him, you love him. But see, this is all, taught to us by the so-called white man to pretty much keep us broken up as a nation. But this was ultimately given for our people. So you have heard the law. This is Isaiah, Matthew 5:38. You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury. This is an NLT, an eye for an eye and a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also. And I'm not telling you to somebody, hit you, beat your ass, or wants to get busy with you. You just let them beat you. Now, I'm not ultimately saying that, but use knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So it says, if you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Give to those who ask and don't turn away from those. So basically, it's given how you say some knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Don't things are going to happen, and certain things that it has to be justified and rectified and dealt with, but ultimately don't hold that grudge. You know. So it says, teaching about love your enemies. You have heard the law that said, "What love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. And that way you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. So let me see. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. Let me see. So basically, you got to understand. Even during that time, you had Jake that was still in that how you say that uh, mindset that they didn't know what was really going on, but eventually it was going to come into knowing. But ultimately, just like today, you have certain things that happen. Certain men, like right now, you got certain men that scoff, talk shit, don't know what's going on. But eventually, you're gonna have some men that's gonna wake up and wake up to the truth in the latter days and what's to come. Because bad times are already coming. But let me get back to never trust our enemies because Jake loved the so-called white man, but you hate each other. You hate yourself and you hate each other. But ultimately, this message was given towards our people. And that's why, Jake don't ever get nowhere because those grudges are on another level. One of the reasons why Jake die and kill each other is because they don't know how to work nothing out. You know, they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to lash things out. They don't know how to sit down, and they don't know how to let certain things ride, certain things fly. But again, you got to remember, you let everything that the so-called white man has done to you fly. But when it comes to your own people, you just always your first mindset. I gotta kill that nigga. Nah, I gotta shoot that nigga, bro. So it says, going back to main reason you shouldn't trust an enemy. Now, am I saying the scripture says, if possible, live peaceful with all men? But we understand this society is it just has to be nuked. So am I telling you go out there and just love niggas? Nah, not at all. You got to be very wary of niggas because niggas will kill you. And niggas will get at you. Niggas will do you dirty. And that's the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's knowing your terrain, who terrain you're on. You know, you got to know how to walk out, when you're in the society. They may wait for the right moment. Betrayal doesn't always happen immediately. I'm gonna go back up. Trust gives them access. The more you trust them, the more power they gain over your choices. And this is ultimately what happened. And this is why, again, Jake has become who they have become. Because one thing for certain, Esau gives you pretty much what your heart desires, and that's that flesh, which is wicked. Eventually Jake lose themselves. So hold on. I know I'm all over the place. So hold on. Let me finish our Romans. Because matter of fact, no. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read this part out and I'm gonna go to that, finish our Romans, because we're gonna go into it. Because since our people trust the so-called white man, he's gained power over your choices, and he gives you evil choices to commit instead of righteousness. So it said they may wait for the right moment. There you go. Betrayal doesn't always happen immediately. It happens when it benefits them the most. So when you was a slave, when we were in hardcore slavery, you were of some benefit. But when they so-called playing with the masses, playing with the illusion of freedom and liberty and justice for all, they allowed you to say, "Oh, yeah, blacks are free," but see, that didn't benefit them. It benefit them what? To turn you into a criminal, turn you into a bugged out people. People mentally, spiritually, physically broken. So they don't value your well-being, even if they cooperate temporarily. They usually won't protect you if it costs them, and that's what has happened. Esau left us dangling out to dry. They want you predictable. If they earn your trust, they can manipulate you easier. So going into back to Romans 1:28, since they thought it was foolish to acknowledge Yahweh was Shah, because remember, I mean, even with the black exploitation movies in all the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, you still had that message the so-called white man was the devil. But again, our people didn't want to take heed. But again, prophecy had to be fulfilled. So it said he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do things that should never have been done. So it says, and this is why you got to watch out for niggas. You got to watch out for our people now. That's I'm not sitting there to tell you to be foolish and go out there loving every goddamn body like the Christian church tells you, and now you look stupid and foolish as hell. But it says their lives became full of every kind of wickedness, and that's our people. So, but again, you're going to have some of our people that's going to wake up from this slumber, just as we were part of this as well. Galatian, wickedness, sin, greed, hate, envy, murder, quarreling, deception, malicious behavior, and gossip. They are backstabbers, haters of Yahweh Shem Shah, and this is what has become befallen on our people. Insolent, proud, boastful, they invent new ways of sinning, and that's our people. They disobey their parents, they refuse to understand, break their promises, are heartless, and have no mercy. They know Yahweh Shem Yahushua justice requires that those who do these things. And one thing for certain, like the scripture says, if Yahushua didn't come back, roughly paraphrasing, it would have been no cloak for their sin. So one thing for certain, what's being done, this truth is being pushed out there. So Jake has no excuse in saying you never heard about the Hebrew Israelites or you never heard the truth. Because, it's ultimately Yahweh Shem Shah is doing this for a reason. For when he judge you, he will be justified because, hey, two-thirds are going to die here. You're going to be destroyed. Like the scripture says in Second Esdras, the plagues have been sent. So it says they know Yahweh Shem Shah justice requires that those who do these things deserve to die. Yet they do them anyway. Worse yet, they encourage others to do them too. So that's the mindset of Jake, doing even more wickedness, being more nasty, being more, devious, So let me see. I put another one. It said why enslaved people couldn't trust slave owners or the system. So I said because the enslavers' entire lifestyle depended on keeping you powerless. Even if they acted kind, their main goal was still control. And that's the so-called white people even to this day. They act kind, they act like they like you, but they, Esau majority of the time they come to you and they deal with you on the strength that they know that they're so-called white. One, kindness was often a tool. Slave owners could act generous, extra food, fewer beatings, small rewards, but it was usually meant to reduce rebellion, make enslaved people feel dependent, create loyalty to the plantation. And that's what they do today. They gives you sleeps, they give you foods, they give you eats, and Master don't beats me. And he gives me rewards, and that's these niggas today. That's how Jake. That's and isn't it ironic? Jake still got that mindset. Oh man, Master gave me promotion. Master gave me this. Master been good to me. The black woman, even you Hispanics. Oh, Master allowed me to come over here. Oh, Master allowed me to do construction. Oh, Master allowed me to work and get overtime. Allowed me to work 16 hours. That's the mindset of our people. But that's what Esau allows you to do, Because what? It reduces rebellion. It makes enslaved people feel dependent. Oh, man, Master good. Master good. So it said it wasn't love, it was management. You see that? So it said the enemy benefited from your obedience. If an enslaved person trusted the master, they might stop resisting, stop planning escape, tell secrets, work harder, hoping for fairness. See that? There you go. But the enslaver gained either way because the whole system was built on exploitation. And you see, whatever our people do, it does what? It helps and it gains from what? It supports the system that was built on what? So-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians exploitation. So promises were easily broken. Slave owners could promise freedom, pay, or safety, but legally enslaved people had no protection if the owner lied. So trusting a promise could get you trapped. Forward trust could get you killed. If you trusted the wrong person with information about escape, plans, or rebellion, it could lead to weapons, family separation, execution, punishment for everyone involved. So, one betrayal could destroy an entire community. So, ultimately, this is why our people don't trust us, because it's like an act of rebellion what we're doing, and our people are so entrusted into the slave, the, the so-called white man. This is what he fears: weapons, family separation, execution, punishment, or his gifts being taken, his pleasure being taken. Five, the system used division, and slavers often created trusted roles: house slaves, drivers, overseers. That goes to what you see today with these niggas. And our people are so gone with the ways of America. You have all types of different niggas here, separated and slave people from each other. Now here it is, we're all slaves to this day, but Jake is nitpicking each other. Encourage spying, is those gatekeepers, etc. Weaken unity. And this is why blacks on this side would never come together. But the elect will, and that's going to be of so-called Negro, Latinos, Hispanics, Native American, West Indians. So let me see. So even trust could be turned into a weapon against the group, and that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. Those of you who's edified, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.